Hello and welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at some of the top Bitcoin mining stocks. So let's get into it. And starting off with fear and greed, you can see crypto has still gone and stayed down into the fear and neutral territory. So we've been talking about this for the last number of months that this has been in a downtrend. We were wondering if at this point things were reversing to the upside, but overall, clearly, this is still in a downtrend towards the fear area. So it is still possible to see lower prices. It's something we will for sure take a look at. Going over to the stock fear and greed index, because these are Bitcoin mining stocks, you can see that we are back down in the fear. So around the last month or so, got down to fear, back up to neutral, and back down. Maybe somewhat of a bottoming process is happening. I do talk about stock market videos every Thursday, so subscribe and I'll get into more of the macro stock data. Of course, as we're taking a look at miners, the last two cycles, we have seen miners go up along with the altcoins. And so they are still subject to that rotation we see. The money that's in Bitcoin, once Bitcoin's in that topping process, we have seen the last two cycles a large rotation out of Bitcoin into miners, large caps, and the right altcoins if you're lucky enough to pick them. Of course, where we are right now in this overall uptrend, this 15% drawback has increased right now, or I guess by the time this was made, maybe this is another drawback that's currently something around 17%. So do know this is normal. In an uptrend, I've been here in crypto since 2017. And I remember at a point in here, the 40% pullbacks became somewhat of a joke. So you think it's bad now, being here since 2017. It could always be a little worse. So you have to ask yourself, why are you here? Do you believe in crypto, the cycles, the altcoins, the miners? And if you do, then you take a look at these through a new lens and you try to buy these dips until we have that topping process and that rotation that we just talked about. As far as the all season macro index is concerned, we haven't had it yet. And this has been in an uptrend ever since August of 23. So just another higher low. And we might see some discounts at this point with some of these miners. I also talk about the crypto cyclical charts and data and indicators every week on Monday or Tuesday. So subscribe to hear more about that. And with the miners, today I'm going to be talking about a lot of them that are around the top 10. As we get a little bit lower, the charts really aren't much to look at. So if you have any special requests or certain miners you want me to go more in depth on, please comment those below. And also comment below, are there any miners that you do have or are interested in? As far as Bitcoin is concerned, so let's zoom out and show you what I got going on here because you see all these lines. So I have the fib retracement tool from the high to the low, the macro high from the 2021 cycle top to the low that it made in later 22. When we draw that fib and take it off log, you can see that Bitcoin really hasn't been able to get through the 1618. I know it's gotten above. When we take a look at it on the weekly, it's just wicks. What I also redrew here, because the price has been coming down recently, is I wanted to bring this back, and this is the double top trend line from the 2021 peaks. As we zoom in here, we can see that that double top trend line is a little bit below that 100-day moving average. Now, that recent sell off, it did get bought up, Bitcoin did, at that 100-day moving average. But if this 50-day isn't going to hold, then we have that double top trend line somewhere around, let's just say 90,000, give or take. There was this channel that Bitcoin was in before, broke out briefly, has come back in. The lows of that channel, I mean, we could extend this out as far as we want, but it is possible that the 200-day and the lows eventually meet in a bearish scenario. So that would be somewhere around the mid 80,000s. I'm not saying it has to get there, but these are just some areas to watch for and some discounts to keep in mind. So if we were drawing a fib from the high to, well, you can take a look at any low here. If we draw it to the recent low, we're right at that 0.5 really, if we're going by the low that happened in January of 25. The price right now is just a little bit under the 0.5. You can see from that low that the 382 is at around that 96 and a half area. And then that double top trend line is also matching up at close to where that low is in the bottom here. If we go to the former all-time high where it was down here at around 69K, let's make sure this fib is on log. Okay, good. You can see here would be some discounted levels. So right around the 0.5, that 86K, if it gets down there, that would be an area to watch for. So that's, I see the comments, y'all ask about different ways to draw fib, so I'm going to try to include that in more of the data here. And as far as when alts are going to go, we have to see a reversal in Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance still bullish. Okay, Ethereum, Bitcoin still bearish. Maybe, those just topped out and bottomed out. Others dash Bitcoin. I talk about this in the other videos. For all we know, those are still trending in that direction, and still we get confirmation of a reversal. And so it isn't truly even the beginning of alt season yet, if you can believe that. So keep that in mind, not to say that we can't get good discounts and prices at these levels. And I just want you to be aware of what some of those levels are and the different indicators I use. So I try to use indicators any of you can understand and replicate. I don't get into Elliott wave theory and other stuff. My philosophy is if I can't replicate it myself when I do my own charting, then I don't want to share that with you guys. I want it to be stuff that I can easily teach you to do. Otherwise, what's the point if we don't understand each other? So this is a buy signal indicator as well. We won't have that on, but let's go to the weekly. And this is what I was talking about with the weekly. That 1618 line at 102K only wicks above it right now. So anyways, with all that being said, let's get into the mining stocks. It's important to know where Bitcoin is because the way Bitcoin's trending has a big impact on what the altcoins are doing. And overall, for the miners, this is Mara right now. You can see that from its recent high that it made here at around $30, this is one way you can take a look at the markets. So if you love Mara, a way you could look at it is recently from that high, it's 42% off. From the high that it made back here in late 21, it's even at more of a discount. So you could take the same line, draw it down. You say, well, Mara's at a 79% discount. So if you love Mara, that is a quick and simple way for you to look at it. So where's Mara right now? I have this massive wedge and it's kind of breaking out of it to the downside. So that does concern me. It's always possible this is just a little fake out, or this whole wedge gets invalidated, and this just goes to where the 0.5 is right here. The 0.5 fib is at 1602, but should Mara get below that, you can see that these recent lows it made back in here were around 1384. Do we have any monthly? No, we have some monthly moving averages, but those are inverted right now. Going over to the daily, we get a better look at this. And you see Mara just trying, it almost seems like the 0.5 that it wants to take a hold of it. But overall, we do have these series of higher lows. So if you like Mara and you wanted to buy some at a discount, I don't hate these levels. Do we have confirmation to the upside? Not quite. We've been talking about different confirmation indicators. The buy signal I showed you before, which we clearly do not have yet. Let's take a look at the stochastic on the weekly. So the stochastic, you can see the blue hasn't crossed above the orange, and we truly get confirmation when it gets up here into the shaded area. So we don't have confirmation yet. It is possible then that it still goes lower. Other indicators we can take a look at to help look for those reversals. The MACD, it has this reached the peak of the bottom. It can go lower, but it doesn't mean necessarily the price has to. So that's another one there. And then as far as the other indicators, let's just take a look at the RSI. And I won't do these for all the miners, by the way, but the other miners kind of go the way that Mara goes. So just something to keep in mind. As far as the weekly, you can see here that it's at kind of a recent low. So it really hasn't been any time the RSI is around these areas. You can see that's kind of where some of the lows are. So again, I don't hate getting it at a discount level over where it is right now as far as Mara goes. So yeah, as far as the RSI and everything, I was kind of looking for more of a bullish divergence. You can see here from the bottoms, we would want to see this peak, or I'm sorry, form a bottom here. So the overall trend of the RSI is still going up. So we don't have that. We clearly don't have a buy signal. So you can buy here. It's at discounted levels, but we don't have confirmation. Let's go to the next one and go to Riot platform. So Riot, it's still overall in this descending channel. So Riot right here, holding up well, still doing the same thing it has been for the last month or two. So that's at the 382 at around $11. Kind of hanging on, losing the 200-week moving average. The moving averages are inverted, so keep that in mind that if the moving average is uninverted, and we see the 50 crossing over the light blue, that's 100, and then the 50 over the dark blue, that's a golden cross, there's still potential for Riot to run pretty good here. So right now, it's been wicking down and getting bought up off those moving averages, the 50 and the 100 weekly, the 382 fib. So buyers are coming in at these discounted levels ever since it made this new high. So every time it comes down to the 382, this has been happening since mid-November, that whenever it comes down to the 382 in these weekly wicks, it is getting bought up quite hard. Let's go over to the daily. In the daily, you can see here, got down to that 200, but the 200 has been getting bought up. And right now, trying to get above on the daily. So that's looking okay as far as Riot is concerned. What's the next one we got here? Let's go to Core Scientific. And these are the market caps, by the way. So before I get into these next miners, something you need to ask yourself. We can take the fibs off log scale and look at price targets when they get into newer all-time high territory. But you need to also ask yourself a question: what market cap do you think these can get to? So at the peak, the market cap for the top miners last cycle was in the $20 to $30 billion range. Now, I don't believe that's going to happen for all these ones that we're talking about. TeraWulf, Bitfarms, I don't necessarily believe that is going to happen. So I might be looking at 10 to 20 billion for some of the lower ones. But for some of the higher ones, maybe we see 30 to 50 billion. Remember, our dollars are 25%, are worth 25% less than they were last cycle. So our dollars are worth less, which means these market caps can go higher just by keeping things equal. And if their value truly does get above that and more money does rotate this cycle, that 30 to 50 billion dollar range is kind of what I'm looking for some of these top ones should they run. And so let's go over to Core Scientific. And I've talked about on this channel how, as far as the top market cap miners are concerned, Core's doesn't have the best balance sheet. You can go over to, this is Market Watch, and you can take a look at the different balance sheets. We talk about Mara. You see the liabilities. The total liabilities, 375 million. Total current liabilities, 33 million. Look at the assets. Total assets, 2 billion. Total current assets, 1 billion. Haven't hit refresh on that, so that's not quite updated. We looked at this last week. But if we go over to something like Cores, I've talked about this, how with Cores, I want to say Wolf to some extent, maybe Cypher. We'll just do this one today. But when we take a look at the financials and balance sheet, these are more risky. And so you can see here, this for Cores, 97 million total current assets, 700 million total assets. So let's just say 100 and 700 to keep it even. All right. Total liabilities, 1.3 billion, and total current liabilities, 500 million. So that's a negative ratio. Negative ratio stocks you want to be careful of in downturns and bear markets and recessionary times, because these will tank harder. They won't hold up as well because they don't have that extra cash on hand. They don't have the positive assets to liabilities to survive hard economic times as well. So these ones will sell off quicker in bear markets. So just keep that in mind. Not that it can't do great, and the research isn't great about it. If you research any of these, you're going to see a lot of positive things. So try to research the pros and the cons of whatever miners you're going to get into. But as far as core scientific, you can see it's recently come down to the 200-day moving average as well as the 236 fib. If we draw our fib this time from the low to the high, remember we don't have as much of a macro lens, so it's hard to have a competitive advantage with the fibs. But if we draw from where our recent high was, and you just start to come down to the different lows. So this was the most recent low, and we can see where the discounted areas are in there. That would be around the 0.5 or lower, so 1385, and you can see it got underneath that. Right now, it's been battling that 382, and so if you just look to the right there, if we just go like this, you can see those recent green candles on the daily came to the 382. But let's say you're going by these lows or where there was a lot of price action back here, you draw the fib over this way, and then this is your discounted territory around $13 on lower. So depending on where you feel the bottom is. So that's how you can draw those micro fibs. As far as the weekly, do we have anything? It's still bearish, but right now, this is promising. You're seeing the wicks get bought up at the 236. So the daily, you did get this nice bounce here off the 200, and it's staying on the 236. So you want to see the 236 hold up right there for core scientific. Let's go over to BitDeer. Sometimes I can do a little bit longer videos on these miners, go more in depth. Sometimes I can't, and I'm pressed for times when I'm making the video. So I hope you understand. I try to get through the ones that I see y'all have interest in. So BitDeer on the daily. Okay, this is a fib that we have drawn high to low, and we've taken it off log, and you can see BitDeer got up to the 1618. Great profit taking area for a lot of altcoins if you get them at the lows. Watch those fib extensions. That's where people take profits, and sometimes those fibs are the tops. You never know. So make sure you have that integrated into your plan. Have percentages of how much you're going to withdraw, and have stop losses or areas where you'll buy more, depending on how much you believe in these. So BitDeer came down to that 100-day, got bought up right away, but you see here not holding on to the 50-day moving average too well. So it is looking like it wants to come down to the 100-day and form our all-time high line at around $15. Would I be buying it right now? Frankly, no. It's still too close to the all-time high. The times to buy in is down here. So for any new members or people watching these videos who are new and you just got into crypto, we are closer, just talking about cycle, we are closer to the times where people sell to take profits. So if you're looking to buy, you're in at riskier times. And as far as any of these, if you're taking a look at discounted areas, again, you can draw these micro fibs. Where do you believe the discounts might be? Now, we saw some price action and tops back here. So I'm going to go to that fib line right here. Let's take this larger fib and make sure we put it back on log scale because it's not the true 786. So on log scale, it's probably closer to where the 888 is here, as well as the 200-day moving average. And so we have the 50-day moving average at that 0.5 around $18. And here are some of those micro discounted levels if you want to look at it that way. But if we go over to the weekly, yeah, this is still looking pretty bearish in my opinion. So yeah, I wouldn't be touching BitDeer right now. Did get to the 20-week moving average, might get a little bit of a bounce, but on the daily, I'm not really seeing anything too great with that. Anyways, let's go over to CleanSpark. I'll try to start speeding it up here with the analysis on these. So CleanSpark, still in that wedge, kind of like what we were talking about with Mara. You can see here that it is coming down towards that higher low trend line is, and Yeah, if it gets right now the weekly, it's underneath the weekly moving averages, so it's lost those. But if it does come down further, you can see buyers all in here at around $10, and the point 0.5 fib is at around 875. Let's go over to the daily. Daily wasn't able to get through those moving averages either, so looks like it wants to go up, challenge those again, and then possibly, we do have these higher lows until this recent moment. So to me, it does look like it wants to touch this trend line eventually. So I'd be willing to be patient. And if you can get clean spark between these prices of $10 to 870 as we zoom in lower, 860, that would be for me discounts by territories I'd be looking for in the medium term. And before I forget, um, sorry for not posting this. I'll try to talk about this on Friday or show you the chart. I saw a monthly, if you believe in seasonality, a monthly chart for crypto that showed February and October tend to be the most bullish months. So just wanted to put that out there. Maybe we see bullishness start to come back this month in February. So next one, let's go over to IREN. And as far as IREN goes, Iris, what do we got here? So far, we can see as we zoom out, here's this higher low trend line. Now we could move this down. It's not a perfect trend line, but it is kind of getting underneath that trend line there. And you can see buyers were coming in at that 200-day moving average. So, if it's unable to get through that 50, these prices here around 11, 10 and a half bucks in here, then you may look to get some iron down at the 200-day around 963. And again, this is the indicator I use, EMA 2050, 100, 200. But if it gets underneath that, the next fib, the 618, is there at around 790, give or take. Let's go over to the weekly for iron. And right around that fib, what do we also see? This 100-week moving average. So if this trend line is breaking down and on the weekly it's showing it might, that would be the next area to look for iron. So if you love iron and this doesn't hold, this is your next discount territory. And by the way, I saw someone in the comments, I think last week, saying, I'm going to buy some iron. And if you did, and you bought some and you liked iron here, then you need to love it when it's at more of a discount. So again, try to remember the perspective. If you believe in this alt season stuff and you are already buying, those lower prices, they do suck initially at first to look at, but remember, those are the discounts. And should we get that alt season, whether in a month, a year and a half from now, then you'll be happy you were dollar cost averaging in at those discounts. Of course, nothing I say is financial advice. All right, let's go over to Cypher. What I share is just what I do. Doesn't mean that's what you have to do. And I'm sure a lot of you have better plans out there. So Cypher, I added on, and I'm trying to add this on more in my fibs. This is what's called the golden pocket. You have the 618 to the 65. So we have it drawn from the high to the low. And Cypher got rejected off that 786. Came down. Look at how it got bought up off those wicks. So right now we're on the weekly. It got bought up off that 65 fib, and this is the 150 and the 200. So far we have big candles and wicks here, and so people are buying and selling violently. Is that's what it's telling me. So big range going on back and forth, just like a roller coaster. So right now it is bullish above the daily. We might see Cypher try to come up and challenge this 786 again at around 693. But what do we see going on here? We have some lower highs. And so if it isn't able to get above these prices, around $6.50, I would not doubt that it could come back down into this area again. So I like Cypher as far as what I've looked at. That's a miner that I think has some potential, but I'm still willing to be patient and try to get it down at those levels. Next, let's take a look at, we'll do HUT. Why not? Let's go over to HUT 8 Corp. And man, ever since we've been doing this channel, remember there's some sort of lawsuit thing going on with HUT, and that was around here. So if you're someone who believed in it down at those times, again, the bearish news tends to be good times to buy. I believe it was in this area. You would have been getting it at around $8 and gotten around a 3x out of it. So right now it's sitting at the 100-day lower highs, lower lows. If this thing continues to cycle down, and look at this big move it had, I would not be surprised to see it get to the 200-day as well as that 0.5 fib at around $18. And so, again, if you draw your fibs from recent highs, what low are you looking to for discounts? So somewhere in here, somewhere all the way down by the 382 fib, if so, I mean, if we are looking at around this price action here, you can see that 0.5 was getting bought up, and other people may have been drawing this exact same fib. So that's how you can draw the micro fibs, just so you're aware. And people were getting in at that $19.30 level, so, or $19.3 level. So to me, it does look like it wants to come back down. But going over to the weekly, yeah, this looks pretty, in my opinion, this looks pretty bearish. So losing that 20-week moving average, 0.5 in the 50 down there at around 17. All right, let's go to TeraWolf, Bitfarms, and BitDigital. We'll close up with those. We don't want to talk about these other weird ones. So TeraWolf, I know we have some wolf fans out there. And so what do we got for TeraWolf? TeraWolf holding on so far. We do have these lower lows, lower highs. It's losing that 200-week moving average. And look at this trend line that has going up. It's starting to come underneath that. So we want to see TeraWolf hold on to the 0.5. And you can see there on the weekly, those wicks that come down to the 100-week, it is getting bought up. However, seeing this candle body starting to peak under the 0.5, you do have to somewhat be concerned because these moving averages are still inverted. Okay, it didn't get above the 618 and came under the trend line, peaking under the 0.5. Next week, I think we'll have a good idea. So if the weekly comes back up here, then so far so good. Then we will have a string of higher lows. But if the weekly starts to get lower and the candle body's kind of sticking around on that 100-week moving average, the next area you might look for is down here at around $2.90 or $3 for your discounts. So you can see that wick was bought up at the 200-day and the 382 back there in August when we had the first yen carry trade unwind. So, excuse me. So if it does break down and get down there, that's the area you'd be looking for next. So if you do love Wolf, as far as recent value, it hasn't been at these levels since last October, so just something to keep in mind. And again, discounted territory. If you love Wolf, if it does start to get down here, as if you feel the market's getting more bearish, then that's when I start to turn to more of those macro charts and I look for more confirmation. I don't need to get the exact bottom because you risk catching the falling knives and it going lower, and that's when we look for confirmation with the stochastic, the MACD, the weekly buy signals. So you may not catch the exact bottom, but instead of catching the exact bottom, you get confirmation and buy up here, that's fine then. So let's take a look at, let's try to get this back up here. Let's go over to the weekly, and the weekly, you can still see here the weekly getting bought up off that 50 and 100. But I wanted to show you, what did I want to show you? The stochastic RSI. And so, as I was talking about before with that August bottom, where was August? Right down here. Okay, you didn't get the exact bottom, but look as it started to flip up. Once the blue got above the orange, there was right here. Now it still went lower. There was right here, okay, where it started to get up. Now it's still going higher. And if you would have waited for confirmation once in the shaded area, again, it's not the absolute low, but you're getting more confirmation. So that's what I look for. You can take a look for when it reverses or gets into that shaded area. And that's how I look for more confirmation in the stochastic RSI. All right, moving on. Bitfarms and BitDigital, BITF, BTBT. Sorry, I know it's a longer video today, but I had the time. I wanted to give you more in-depth charting. So Bitfarms, is this a sign of things to come for some of those larger cap alts? So the smaller cap, sorry, I call them alts, but miners, the smaller caps, what are we seeing? Breaking under those higher low trend lines, holding that fib, the moving average, and then coming down. Right? So Bitfarms right here is at the 382. Possible sign of a reversal. Let's take a look at the stochastic. The smaller caps will fall more. And yeah, that one, you see a lot of weakness right there. Um, Sorry, this thing keeps going down. Let's take a look at the RSI. RSI is still dying, so not quite confirmation yet with those indicators. But if you like discounted levels, it's at that 382. Let's make sure our fib is on log scale, which it is. And let's go over to the daily. I want to make sure I'm giving you accurate information. So you can see those daily moving averages falling down to where the 0.5 is. So that 0.5 in the 200 now resistance, but that 382 got bought up big time. So if you like Bitfarms and you just want to dollar cost average in some value, that's fine. But we don't have confirmation yet, and this thing could still fall further. It could still come down to these lower $1 levels. So do keep that in mind. And last, let's close off with Bit Digital. And Bit Digital, been a hot minute since we've looked at this one. Still in this channel, right? So we have those channel peaks over here. This one, not quite, but it looks like it's coming down to the 382 in the channel. So you can take a look for discounted areas here in the mid $2 range for Bit Digital. That's on the daily and on the weekly. On the weekly overall, yeah, it's holding on to the 50 and the 100, but you can see it's kind of losing it right there. So if it does come down to the lower end of that channel, I'd say that'd be a good area to look for Bit Digital. Anyways, again, apologies for the longer video, but I had the extra time. I wanted to do a little bit more in-depth analysis. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you waiting for confirmation? Do you like these price levels? Do you think prices can go lower because of the recent downturn in ETH Bitcoin, others Bitcoin? Or are you buying these dips up? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I'll do a stock macro market video tomorrow and probably a live stream on Friday. Sometime, I usually do it 10 or 11 Pacific, which would be noon or 1 Central Time, Eastern Time. What would that be, like 1 or 2? So I'll try to do a live stream around that time this Friday. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.